Well, joining us to look at that particular situation this morning is a legal practitioner, George Eke. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Well, a whole lot of meanings have been read through the action of the police as well as the lawmakers. Now, let's start from the day this story broke. What came to your mind when you saw the visuals of that particular incident?
Well, to summarize it, it was particularly very embarrassing to the nation entirely, you know, because not only did I see it on the local channels, you know, of course it went viral and it was on CNN and all of that. Of course, we are coming from all over the place, you know, trying to find out what quality of politicians that we have in the country, because what struck everybody was those people who were scaling the fence and or climbing the gate. The details are probably what we are going to discuss today. But it is important for us to appreciate what happened by looking at it sequentially. That is to say, have a contextual analysis of the situation. And I'm trying to do that based on two platforms, or probably building this premise. One is that nobody is above the law. And the second one is that self-help is not an option in democracy. The police said they had an intelligence report that reconvening, okay, let us agree that the reconvening of the National Assembly, particularly that of the House of Representatives, was at the request of the president asking that they approve the an elongation of the state of emergency in those states, and the National Assembly had to reconvene. The police said they had an intelligence report that was going to be mayhem, or that was going to be, you know, some level of distortion of peace and order in the National Assembly. Even if we did not believe them. Of course, the situation that we found ourselves vindicated whichever officer that gave that report, that indeed there was going to be mayhem, and indeed there was. There ended up being. The police decided to adopt a method which is restriction of movements, vehicular and human traffic. In other words, controlled entry into the National Assembly. And I disagree with those who said the police does not have any business in that place. The police has, if you know if you read the police as, you will be very jealous at the wide powers the police has. Police can even intervene. They can even break into your bedroom if they find out that you are about to strangle your wife. That is the extent of police power. So their duty is to maintain law and order, irrespective of where it is happening. In this instance, it's happening at the National Assembly. So I will come to that idea of hallowed chambers and, you know, all the things that they talk about.
Before getting there, let's also look at the comment of the police, because one wonders, you know, when you say self-help, agreed, two wrongs, they say cannot make a right. Self-help, you say, is not in our laws. But again, knowing full well that, well, people would resort to all of that, can we say the police preempted that particular action? If you say you were coming there to protect the assembly or the assembly members, and when you got there, you met the members and not a motley crowd or hoodlums as they reported, what do you do?
Okay. So first and foremost, I'll probably disagree with you that two wrongs don't make a right, because I've never seen the first wrong for us to begin to talk about the two wrongs. So we are progressing.
What happens if you're a policeman, you come in to give me protection?
Yes.
What happens? When you come to my house to provide protection, what do you do?
Is to provide the protection.
Because we saw the Speaker of the House even introduce himself.
Okay, so okay. Let's go there. I mean, let's not jump the gun now. You see, the police now cordoned the place. I'm trying to, when I say we are going to use a sequential and, you know, procedural.
That was why I asked, what do you do when you want to give protection?
So at that point in time, they cordoned the place and they were screening people. They did not shut down the National Assembly. They were screening people. They had screened some people, even though it was quite torturous. That was why your reporter said that it was a long queue. David Mark himself said he was screened at 3 points. I'm talking about the president of the Senate. In other words, they wanted to make sure that they sieve who they called or who they referred to as hoodlums from the honorable members. At a point in time, the speaker's vehicle came in. if you look at, I don't know, I've watched so much of this thing, I don't know whether it's from your own station or AIT, you notice that a policeman stopped the speaker's vehicle, obviously to be screened. And of course, the assistance of the speaker, from what I now gather, or from what I saw, it looks like a number of legislators assembled somewhere and they were leading the speaker to the place based on their own premonition, whatever they thought was going to happen. So all of them came and obviously overwhelmed the police. If you notice physically, the gentleman who was wearing a brown flowing gown removed the top part of his, that's the flowing gown itself, and handed it over when the policeman stopped the speaker's vehicle. And of course, he came out and banged on the speaker's bonnet and said, you can hear that. He said, Muje, Muje. It's like there was this battle cry of move. Almost, if not that the speaker's driver probably exercised some restraint, he would have run down that policeman. I'm sure the police even made reference to that. So what he now did was he handed over his own flowing gun to another colleague of his and physically pushed the policeman away. And at that point in time, all of them now came together. And it was almost like the overwhelmed. If you notice, that gate was being locked at that point in time. If you watch closely, there's one of the honorable members that had the chain, which means that locking was being done at that point in time, because it's like they were now overwhelmed. They couldn't do the screening. There were so many of them, and they started walking away. These are visuals that are there for you, right? One would have just thought that at that point in time, the speaker can always put a call across to the police high command. I'm being embarrassed.
You think he didn't do that?
I don't know whether he did. I saw him. I noticed that he was making some calls.
You saw on that video?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we are all looking. That's why I said we are looking. I noticed that he was making some calls. It's like, this will take about 4 or 5 minutes and all of that. Did you send anybody to stop me from? Because unlike what is being said, the speaker was not stopped from. He was just being screened, kind of. And they refused screening. And of course, you could see what is in the face of that gentleman, that particular gentleman that was wearing a brand. It's almost like, where did you get the courage to stop the speaker for screening and all? It's like, don't you know that God is passing? Almost. That's my take on it.
May I come in here,
Yes.
Mr. Ike? I mean, there were two different gates. There was the first gate.
Yes.
Where they were doing the screening, and that was where we noticed the traffic. At least our reporters caught that particular entrance. So they were searching cars and letting them through. The speaker and his entourage were allowed. There were other lawmakers as well. We had a separate lawmaker, spokesperson, chairman of the House Committee on Information was here, I think, on Friday, and he did say that it is the custom usually for some lawmakers to maybe meet with the speaker before the meetings on their plenary sessions, and they had decided some of them had met him and they were in his convoy on their way to the assembly. They had all been screened. According to him, they also have ID cards, they have identification cards. They had been screened through the first gate, and then they got to the second one, and then it was locked. Our correspondents reported that they were there for over 30 minutes, and that the speaker had come down from the vehicle at some point, and asked to speak with the most senior officer there, introducing himself. If it was just about screening, do you think that silence should have been the word from the police? This is also considering the background of, where we're coming from. There's been a row of some sort between the police and the speaker. As we know, they're in court because his aid had been withdrawn. So we cannot just, assume that this is happening in isolation. If we also put this in context in terms of what has transpired, what do we say, or what would come to your mind if you were the lawmakers or the speaker at that particular point in time?
No, look, like I told you what I could have done if I were speaker, and probably some of us are speculating that that's probably what he was doing at that point in time. But note, Maokwe, that the exit gate, which I hear the presiding officers normally come in through, was locked at that particular day. David Mark himself said he had to use this particular gate because like everybody was subjected to this area. And then the distinction you are making between the first and the second gate, yes, it does apply. But you see, it is at this second place where they now locked, where they locked the gate, the gate that they were now like scampering over kind of, was exactly where the final screening was supposed to happen. David Mark said he was screened 3 times.